This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is brought to you by MailChimp. MailChimp is an easy-to-use marketing platform with a name that might make it sound like they only do email. But they do just about everything to help businesses grow, like ads, postcards, landing pages, audience management tools, automations, reports, and more. You can say MailChimp grew so much they outgrew their name, and their marketing tools can help you do the same. Go to MailChimp.com and sign up for a free and see how MailChimp can help grow your business. MailChimp, they do more than mail.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, October 25th, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. This is only a test. Hello, welcome everyone to another podcast. This week I'm Norm and joined by introductions right away. Jeremy Williams.
Hello.
And Kishore Hari.
Norm, congratulations on your last ever podcast.
I don't think it's our last ever podcast. If the fact that I'm here, you probably will realize that Baby Watch 2018 is still happening.
Still on.
Jeremy, we should start a betting pool on this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, betting pool over under how many times will I get texted by Danica during this next hour and a half to see whether or not. Sometimes she'll text me, but obviously not in labor.
Yeah. Oh, I think you'll get 3 texts.
3 texts. Okay. The over under 3.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, more, fewer?
I'm gonna go with 4.
4.
Whoa.
4.
You could just say over.
Over.
All right. Okay. It may be more, maybe less. Watching the video. So still waiting. Still waiting. If any of you are out there waiting with me, we're all still waiting. It can happen literally any time. Would it be more exciting if it happened during the podcast?
No.
Yes.
No.
It
Not
would.
at all.
Yes, it would. It would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic content, perhaps.
Gunther, grab the camera. Trail Norm. Let's live stream this baby.
That's I don't think live stream is permitted. I don't think the internet at the hospital is not very good. But no. I do have the cars packed, and the bags are packed, and I could very well be leaving this podcast. No, but let's get on to well, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
I feel downright relaxed compared to how you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm stressed out because I broke my camera lens again. Lens filter.
Again.
How'd you do it this time?
It was in my bag, and the bag hit the ground hard, and unfortunately the filter broke.
This is his SLR lens. How expensive is that lens?
It's about a $2,000 lens.
And you have a UV filter on the edge that gets smashed. Thankfully, you had that on there, else it might have been worse.
Very thankfully I had that on there. This is the 3rd time this UV filter, brass filter is broke.
Are you going to have to saw it off like you did the time a couple times?
It's sitting outside in the office, and we may take it over to the cave at some point and take it to a bandsaw, which again would make some fun content. But more importantly for me, I need this camera lens at the ready for impending photography requirements.
That's right.
At the hospital.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not I know people take pictures in the delivery room. It's not your best moment.
Text
on
one
camera.
Text one just came in.
Yes, I'm on track.
On track. Text one came in. Not in labor. You know on iMessage you can do the animations, right? With your text messages, it does not the birthday thing, but the bubbles.
Are you expecting
everywhere.
Danica to spend time making an elaborate text when she goes into labor?
No. I get the elaborate text when it's not in labor.
Okay, so
all caps, not in labor, with the animation.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a text that says
screen.
home.
Yeah, comment now.
Yeah, all sorts of. We talked about the emoji options for this, but I think a phone call will probably be the most pressing thing. Anyway, let's get to our true first segment.
Top story this week.
So many things to choose from this week because a lot of kind of notable things happened this week, but we're going to go with Tetris.
We're going to go with the most fun, the thing we were most excited about.
Probably, yeah. With all the kind of downtrodden news and depressing things happening in the world today, this was a thing to celebrate.
Yeah.
And the United States has a new, it's the United States or the world, has a new Tetris champion. NES Tetris.
I thought it was a world champion.
Perhaps
It
the
is.
world,
It's a world champion.
World championship Tetris. It's something that, as a competitive sport, I had not followed. I definitely have seen the videos. I'm sure you've
Really?
seen the videos on YouTube of people playing Tetris at a very high level. Sometimes it's the Tetris arcade machines, which are very popular. This is NES Tetris,
Yeah.
which I suppose is a very pure form of Tetris. It's not even though Game Boy is what many people would have been exposed to more, being the Pac-In game.
Yeah, not as colorful.
Not as colorful and perhaps not as competitive, because you can do the straight up side by side, head to head, with the NES.
Oh, so I didn't realize they were doing that. So
Well, actually, I don't, because now I'm thinking about it. There was a photo of two NESs.
because the game did not require that. Basically, like everybody plays the best game they possibly can, starting at the same level, and they just go for the highest score. There's not a time limit. The only thing that you're racing against is your own mental ability, and whether or not you can keep up with the pace of these bricks. Because
love that.
They start on a very advanced level.
They start already at level 15 or something.
It's up there.
It's up there.
Like
They're very fast falling bricks.
It's a level where you or I would be out in seconds.
So this is not. You're right. It's not head to head in the sense that the things you do will affect your competitor.
Right.
The only awareness you may have is the score of the competitor, and so everyone's getting not the same blocks either, or are they the
No.
same blocks?
I don't think so. They're not
No.
the same order of blocks.
They're not
no.
the same
Random.
order of blocks. That is interesting.
Yeah. So
So there is an element of luck.
it would be interesting to see if they got the same order. How would they?
Right,
handle
right.
them
Because the
differently.
faster you drop them down, and we could be wrong about this. I got to rewatch the video, but basically, a 7-time Tetris champion, Jonas, was beaten by a 16-year-old amateur.
Well, clearly
Well,
not an amateur.
a pro now, but a relative
Yeah.
newbie in the Tetris scene.
Apparently, he watched these videos. That's what turned him onto the scene. He saw these YouTube
okay.
videos, and he said, "I want to be a part of that." And so he entered. He just wanted to qualify. That's all he went into the tournament hoping to do.
And you're playing for score. So you're playing for score until kind of you hit you die, essentially. And in terms of the strategies, you talk about keeping your board clean and also trying to get Tetrises.
Trying to get the most Tetrises.
Because Tetris are so much higher, more score.
Fat points.
Fat points, totally. The most interesting thing also was the commentary. I love the commentary.
I
How
was
tuned in the commentators
I was
were.
really surprised by how good they were.
Not only because Tetris is a game that we get, right? It's not like watching StarCraft or even Counter-Strike in terms of esports or today's what is that, Fortnite or Overwatch or whatever. I guess it's Fortnite. Is Fortnite done competitively? Overwatch,
Yeah.
League of Legends, League. That's what I'm talking about. But even though you get Tetris, the way they talk, the way they analyze at high speed what the mindset of the players are, where they are, what level they are, what they may be thinking about in terms of clearing the board, building the way, paving the way for Tetrises, the things they may need to build up and stack up to get that point lead back or to catch up. It was riveting.
It also, like, the players were showing a lot of expression on their face while things were going. So you saw them, like, shake their head, like,
Yeah.
oh, I made a mistake.
Yep.
I think one of the reasons this video was spread so widely wasn't just because this relative newcomer beat a long-time established champion of Tetris. It was the way in which he did it. There's actually another video ahead of that where he got into the finals by beating another veteran of Tetris, which is just as exciting. But the finals match, I think he had to win, what was it, best out of 3 or win multiple matches. The way he won that final match, he was down by many, many points. And the previous champion,
Oh, you're talking about the final match.
final match,
Because his opponent
had
died.
exactly.
Like a minute or so before the new kid did.
Right, because
but
he reached that high level.
his score was so much higher.
Exactly. So at that point, it was just a waiting game.
Yeah.
And the waiting game made it even more stressful because Joseph, the newcomer, had to catch up in points while waiting for the bars, waiting for the long piece to get the Tetrises.
He actually went 3 more levels than the person he beat because he was so far behind in points.
Right, right.
So I also learned about some new terminology to add to our gamer lexicon. The new kid, he uses what's called a hyper tapping. That's the hyper tapping method of play versus the DAS method, right? So all the old school gamers, they see the next piece that's coming because you get that little cue in the corner of your screen that said, this is the next piece that's going to be coming up once you drop the current block. And they base what they're doing based on that. So they'll hold the button down before it's on the screen. And then it comes down and it shifts over fast because they've been holding the button down.
And at those high levels, you couldn't otherwise move the pieces fast enough. You get stuck; they would fall more toward the center, which isn't where you'd want them.
Right. Yeah, but the new kid, he does hyper tapping, which is a fast mash of the button.
Oh, just like tap, tap, tap,
Yeah.
tap, tap, tap.
Yes, which is
Because you
more-
don't hold it down; you just tap.
It's a more extraneous method of play, Norm.
Do they have cameras on the player's hands?
I didn't see them.
Oh my god!
But he wasn't the only hyper tapper there. There were others there too. It's just like this battle of methods.
yeah, this is
They talked about a drought where
yeah, exactly.
you didn't get the
13 piece trout.
you
You're
didn't get the
waiting
piece you
for that
wanted.
long bar. You had the
Right.
spot open, and you got to not only keep alive, but you're also you're four rows higher than you want to be because you're expecting and that to be filled up and Tetrised out.
I can't explain how fast these pieces are moving. Like even in the levels they're starting at, the pieces are at the top of the screen and at the bottom within a second.
Yeah.
They're fast.
There's a famous video of a Tetris player playing an arcade version of Tetris in which the pieces are invisible at a certain level. When you get to a certain high level, they fall very quickly, but the pieces you see it on the
What's coming?
you see what's coming.
That's
so
interesting.
You know in your head strategically, but you never see the pieces actually.
So you have to
fall.
count your taps.
You count your taps, so you know how long to hold.
Crazy.
And there's a player who played. It's almost like he's like a savant playing, and the invisible pieces are creating lines and Tetrises, and it's a wonderful video to watch.
Joseph was in tears when he won. And
As he should be.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
he wept, and the former champion was a great sport.
Yep. There's a great photo of them next to each other connecting their trophies, which I believe is a T block.
Oh, that's
in
interesting.
Tetris.
That's cool.
Yeah.
John
Every
Green-
Tetris piece only has 4 pieces, 4 blocks.
For those that want more information, John Green did a great video yesterday that explored the question of why we're actually getting better at Tetris over the years. So it's a good watch if you're interested in a deeper dive.
Well, what's the cliff notes? Why are we?
It's essentially that like people are practicing more. Like we're giving people more time,
You
more
mean
opportunity
in
to
life?
learn.
Like
yeah.
packing the trunk of the car? Mm-hmm. Really? Wow.
But even like when you take it for this 16-year-old, he had the benefits of watching all of these videos of other players
Yeah.
Right.
and their techniques. And it's sort of like, we think about it like you can only get to a certain level with like a musical instrument, but they've been around like 100, 200 years. But Tetris has been around, what, 30? Mm-hmm. So we haven't reached this sort of pinnacle of distribution of this game where people have sort of mastered it.
Yeah, I'm no good at Tetris.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah. It's still a lot of fun to play. Very satisfying to play. Also very frustrating. Yeah. All right, let's go to our next segment. Oh, talk about an end of an era.
Well earned.
Well earned. Netflix now only has 1, 2. No, we're not talking about. We're talking about Pixar. Pixar first before Netflix. Big news on the Pixar front. Pixar's co-founder Ed Catmull is going to retire.
The triumvirate that started Pixar, John Lasseter, Steve Jobs, and now Ed, are all departed from the organization now.
Or will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will be basically at the end of this year. I think Ed is probably the least known of those names. He wasn't a very public figure compared to the other two, obviously.
Except in engineering circles, where he was a god. He invented alpha blending. That's how we get transparency on computer graphics. He invented a lot of things that have become like the cornerstone of modern graphics engineering, both real time and in animation.
Well, what a well-deserved tenure and retirement, right? He's 73 years old. He's as a president of Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios. the rise of this company and also the reemergence of Walt Disney Animation Studios as a animation powerhouse. Disney has two arms that make really great films, highly anticipated films now, and it seems like the right time. I'm sure Pixar has a leadership and also an internal education system, just like Apple has, fosters the same type of culture in its leaders as the past leaders to carry on, and so, it'll be an end of an era. But I don't think it doesn't bode poorly for Pixar. I think they're still on track to make their next films as they were have always been.
He wrote a biography, an autobiography, years ago called Creativity Incorporated. Did you guys read that at all?
This is when he first talked about the Brain Trust.
Okay, yeah, and they talked about how the distinction between the creative departments and the technical departments, how one inspired the other and challenged the other, and that's a good read.
Yeah,
I think we often forget Ed came from Lucas over to found Pixar. So George Lucas hired him soon after he completed his doctorate to actually start bringing technology to Lucas's projects in 79.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Pixar was a Lucas division. They used to make computers. Then they realized that the software was where it was at, and then they realized production was where it was at. Well, good on Ed. We wish him the best in his retirement.
The end of the era, short era. Netflix, I think last week talked about the cancellation of Iron Fist, the rather sudden cancellation, because Iron Fist Season 2 had just come out and had been better received than the first season and ended on an interesting note. Netflix has now also canceled Luke Cage.
Certainly they have some heroes for hire now. I've been waiting on that.
Yeah.
So I understand the Iron Fist one. Even though I did not watch season 2, which a number of listeners said is much better than season 1, and a lot of reviewers said that, season 1 was rough. Luke Cage's season 1 was quite good. I couldn't make it through season 2.
I think that was the problem. They looked at their numbers. Netflix is such a data-driven company that they saw the viewerships and how much these shows cost, and It doesn't mean that, I think Daredevil Season 3 just dropped and has been relatively well-reviewed, and they'll continue that on. But the whole idea of doing this TV cinematic universe that's somewhat tenuously connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with minor illusions, but would never be fully connected, without being able to leverage that full connection. It's very expensive to build 4 shows just to build up to one thing, which kind of fell a little flat with Defenders. And if they're not going to do that same thing again, might as well just try to tell good stories independently. It's a bummer. Luke Cage is a really cool character, great character in the comics, really good character in the show, and I hope that character doesn't disappear from Netflix forever.
And I find it a bad sign that me, consumer of all things superhero, couldn't make it through these seasons.
Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff to watch right now. It's even on Netflix. Remember even talking about on AMC and Hulu and Amazon, which there were plenty of really good shows. But even just on Netflix, even superhero shows on Netflix, there's just a lot to keep up on.
Even with Daredevil dropping, everyone is talking about House of Haunting Hill right now.
Yeah, timing wise.
Yeah. So, anyways.
I didn't realize that until there was this Twitter buzz last night. Are they releasing those episodes not all together or something?
No. I think they're all dropped.
They are. Just people just watch them. Okay.
Yeah. So, Daredevil Season 3, if you have thoughts on it, let me know. But we're making our way through the season right now. We're actually saving it until the baby comes to really...
Yeah, show it to the baby.
Exactly. Talking about a return to television as opposed to departure from television, new reports are that Steve Carell is coming back to television. Television back in a way, with a new series on Apple's still yet unannounced original series.
Isn't this weird?
There have been so many signed deals from Always Sunny folks to now this. Apple, of course, has publicly talked about investing $1 billion into original content on a service that, again, will at some point be announced. But Steve Carell is going to team up with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon on a drama. Not a comedy, although he's kind of leaning more toward dramas these days.
His movies have been much more in that category, and he's demonstrated quite an ability to act in those. I liked Foxcatcher, even some of the ones that are more dramedy. I think he's been excellent in. So
What was that, the one, the way back?
oh yeah, and there's also the one the apocalypse kind of one with
Looking for a friend, End of the
searching
World.
for love at the end of the
something
world.
like that, yeah, with Keira Knightley. Yeah, and then of course the upcoming Zemeckis film, Marwen Call, which definitely reads as dramatic. This TV show is going to be based on a book series about the world of morning TV anchors, like your Today Show style anchors. So playing a Matt Lauer type, perhaps.
Come on. I mean, we've seen him in Anchorman. We know he has the capability for this.
I think it's going to be his Anchorman character. But I think they're definitely going toward more of that HBO style limited series with high profile actors in dramas. Speaking of Apple's plans for a TV service, still as yet unannounced, but the information has information about potentially the relative timing that it could be early next year. And they may offer free episodes for people with Apple devices. So if you have, an Apple TV, for example, or even probably an iPhone or iPad, you'll get some select stuff without having to subscribe.
Wait a minute. How are you supposed to watch it without an Apple device?
It's a really good question.
I mean, isn't that everybody who could possibly subscribe to their service?
It's true.
Okay.
It's true. But what do you think their plan is here? Like, they want to get that extra $10 a month. Do you think Apple, if they are investing this much money and let's say they come up with 10 really great shows next year, they launch with 10 shows that will run throughout the year, is that enough to get you to put down $5 to $10 a month on something? No, I don't think so either. I think that if you look at the offerings on Netflix, unless it ties into iTunes Movies and iTunes TV and it gets you either discounts or, a free movie every week to watch via iTunes.
Yeah, I think
a rental.
There's
something.
two ways. It has to be integration, like you're saying, or it has to just be some killer show that I need to watch. And if you look at it, Star Trek Discovery is much more like in that vein of a show that I need to watch, given my interests, and I still didn't go for it on CBS All Access. So
and this is all,
I think it's a big hill to climb.
It sounds like it's all original programming, and which means it won't have the attached fan base and the connection that people have on something like a Star Trek Discovery or even like The Mandalorian on Disney's. That's, you're talking about the killer app. What is the killer show for these services? Amazon's kind of struggled with that. That's why they bought Top Gear essentially with Grand Tour, because you buy an existing audience already.
I'd be more interested in an Apple service that was a bundle, more sort of like Prime, where it also included maybe superior support for my Apple products.
That's dangerous. That's a slippery slope.
Got me a subscription to Apple Music streaming.
The music streaming stuff makes a lot of sense. Also, storage, extra backup, cloud storage.
Exactly.
These are kind of essential things that people are maybe on the fence of, but like they can immediately make benefit of, even if they're not watching the content. And that's exactly right. The Prime strategy seems to be a smarter way to go. It's purely a la carte within their ecosystem. It's going to be omitted, and you're already looking at how much you're paying for other streaming services and things like cloud storage.
Right, and the fact that you are subscribed to other streaming services means you have so much other content is competing with.
Yeah. Speaking of Netflix, big announcement, of course, Netflix is spending billions and billions on television shows. Guillermo del Toro, who they have a great relationship with from Troll Hunters with their DreamWorks connection, has now signed on to direct a stop-motion Pinocchio film for Netflix, something that he's wanted to do for a long time, apparently.
That's interesting.
Stop motion musical version of Pinocchio. So it's like adding layers on top of it. So I think it's the stop motion part that has me so interested right now.
Right.
Because we've seen some brilliant stop motion work in the past couple years. And so that gives me a lot of hope that we can get something equally as interesting. I'd be really curious if he's going to do this in-house or if he's going to partner with a group like Leica to do the stop motion, just to get a sense of like what stylistically what this is going to look like. I'm all over this.
So
It's hard to think of a title that lends itself to stop motion as much as a puppet movie.
yeah,
That's
marionette.
really cool.
Totally. And Pinocchio, of course, even though best known for the 1940s Disney film, is based on an 1880s story. So this will presumably be based on the original story, maybe probably a little darker. I don't expect
The original
a Jimmy
story
Cricket.
the original story is a little bit dark.
Yeah.
The original movies gets kind of dark in like the third
Totally
act.
true. Totally true. Yeah, but it won't be the Disney-fied
No.
version. Yeah, Wired's put out a story this today saying that this is probably Netflix's a prestige product for awards. That they want to maintain a great relationship with Guillermo, as well as potentially positioning themselves for Oscars.
Can I ask a question about this? I don't understand Hollywood and awards, especially in the context of Netflix. Like, I understand there's like if your movie wins like an Academy Award for Best Picture, you get a bump in how many people see it. But they seem to be spending so much more money. Netflix doesn't get that kind of bump from an Emmy win, does it?
I think they.
Like, people don't subscribe to the service. Ooh, a Netflix show won an Emmy. I'm going to subscribe to Netflix.
They care more about just the social buzz, right? Like people talking about something online compels other people, just like when you talked about the House on Haunting Hill, right? Like to compels other people to discover things on Netflix because there's so much there. Maybe it's for creative collaborations, like winning the awards then reinforces them as a place for the scarce resource. Really, is the creative talent. Right, and then the showrunners and the
You
actors.
think the legitimacy like opens up doors? Okay.
For people to want to sign with them as opposed to sign with a company like Apple. Who knows?
I feel like they've broken down those barriers at this point.
Yeah. Final bits of news in pop culture. We have a few movies who had their release dates pushed back. Some of them surprisingly, some of them unsurprisingly. For Guardians of the Galaxy, now they're going to reportedly begin production in 2021.
Do they have a director yet?
No director. Yeah.
All the rumors are that they're still going to use the James Gunn script, and we'll see what happens there. If you bring in a new director, you got to imagine that script's going to change a bunch because who wants to just like they're not going to get a director that's going to come in and just do what's written on the page. That's a long time. That must like Kevin Feige must be mad.
It's a long time from now, and also changes how that story, whatever story that be, fits into whatever the next phase is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Assuming that the MCU is going to follow the same type of storytelling where there's going to be little bits that add up to bigger stories, this is a big wrench. This kind of takes them off the playfield for 2 years of movies.
On that subject, are you expecting another Infinity War style crescendo of movies after the next phase? Or
It's a good discussion. Like, who's the next big baddie? Because like the crescendo, like the thing that tied all the Marvel films so far is the Infinity Stones. Right? The stones were a discrete thing that were split up between the movies, then built up to Thanos. So speculations is that Galactus is something they could lean into as a big universal threat. Sole survivor of a dying universe, devourer of worlds, and maybe the heralds of Galactus are the independent threats throughout the movies.
We have to wait for the merger to happen for that because Galactus is owned by the Fox.
That is true.
I was thinking Secret Wars would be much more of an interesting way to go, but it's
Beyonder?
really hard to tell that story.
I don't think you can tell beyond.
Well, I mean, if you take the heart of that story, which is basically somehow all of our heroes get transported to a planet alongside their villain counterparts, and they have to sort of fight for resources, and they break up into tribes. It's sort of like a war world of sorts.
Battle Royale.
Yeah,
but that's something not really something you can build up to. And
look, I get there's problems.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of problems with that. That's leaning way toward the fan fiction, like the emotional resonance. I don't think is going to be there.
If it happens, are we talking about another 10, 15-year wait?
Oh, for Crescendo, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're talking about every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that seems
a
reasonable.
big event. Yeah, I mean, you can't really get bigger than Thanos. Like they. Oh, now I'm thinking, God, what if Thanos is defeated and he's recruited back in? Thanos coming back
As an Avenger?
No, not an Avenger, but like an anti-hero, which is like kind of how he was in the comics,
how it works.
right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. They have to reluctantly recruit Thanos to come back to fight another being.
Does he get to keep his soul stones? I mean, all his
No.
Infinity
no,
Stones?
No.
Oh.
It's just his tactical brilliance.
It's just his mind.
I will tell you all sorts of stuff after this podcast.
Okay.
I'll give you a reading list.
And I'll give one last shout out to the movie First Man, which we've talked about last week, but still in theaters, still worth watching. I still have yet to see this in IMAX, and I really want to see it in IMAX.
I thought you told me to see it in IMAX.
Well, because of this behind-the-scenes documentary, or behind-the-scenes featurette that it's on YouTube about how Damien Chazelle shot most of this film on film. A lot of the Earth stuff is shot in 16 mil, and it opens up into IMAX, for big climactic scenes. Well, when they get to the moon, spoiler alert. So,
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's it. Does it for pop culture news. All right. Oh, in San Francisco, we have some big tech news. Maybe someplace we'll be going right after this podcast.
Oh.
I will pitch that. I'll just put it out there right now.
Oh.
I'm up for it.
Amazon has opened its first California-based Amazon Go store.
I've totally been to Go already, guys.
Jeremy's done this.
Totally
in
done this.
Seattle.
When did you do
I'm
this?
so over this.
Yeah, we talked about that. You went to Seattle.
You went to the one in Seattle.
Yeah.
I thought you meant to the one here.
No.
So this is Amazon's cashier-less, money exchange-less store. You walk in, scan an app.
The only employees there are support people. Like this,
Right.
this is how you get in. If you download the app, you open it, you scan your QR code,
and then
and
you
then
pick up things.
Oh, and they're there to say people, like when people get to the exit, they're like, "What should I do?"
Just go.
And
Just
then
walk through.
so they're there to say, "Yes, just leave, just go."
leave. Hold your things.
The interesting things are obviously it was crowded, and we saw some tweets to that fact. I think the only breakdowns that I saw is people felt like it was laggy for when they get the receipt. And
Why would you want the receipt though? Oh, you check
when
to see
you
if you're
get
over.
when you get the email receipt, and because I'm used to when I place an order on Amazon, before I even get over to the other tab, the
Yeah.
email receipt is there.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Square. When you.
I went twice. The first time there was a good 5-10 minute wait. The second time it was while it was on the same block. So it
5-10
varies.
minute wait for the receipt to come.
Yes.
But the receipt's only essential to you if you need to confirm that they charged you for the right
Exactly.
things.
Exactly.
So from their perspective, is it worse to have a false positive or false negative? Is it worse for them in their system, in their computer vision system, to miss something that you picked up and charged, or charge you for something you didn't pick up?
I think it's worse to get charged for something you didn't get.
That's right.
Because this is this is a small store, so there's not many customers going through it, and so it's all about customer experience and getting them like situated through that uncanny valley walk.
They'd rather lose the 70 cents on a can of Coke than they would have to pay for extra customer support for someone to get a refund.
Because you also know press is looking for that story too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, most of the press about this store is about the cashierless experience where you don't get charged when you walk out and it's automatic. But what this is Amazon taking shoplifting into the back of the store and shooting it in the head. I mean, this is the end of shoplifting as we know it. If you're going to steal something now in the future, it must be before or after it's in the store itself. Because you will now be
Shrinkage
seen.
is no longer a thing. Yeah, the cameras. Like, did you feel like it was weird to be watched that way? With
Well,
the hundreds of cameras, and if you look up, you can see there are photos on Twitter of these. They look like basically like overhead projectors.
It's a nonstop array of
and they're
sensors.
everywhere.
There is not a square inch that you can hide in this store. You cannot crouch in a corner and not be seen.
Right.
And if you said, well, we should try going all wearing the same hat and
or
the same clothes.
or something. Yeah.
Even if you had identical twins doing that, the computer wouldn't bat an eye because
If you cross paths,
it never loses track of you. It
From
doesn't,
every angle.
It doesn't blink. It doesn't confuse you with someone else because it never stops watching you. And
How-
you can't occupy the same space as another person.
We got to go in there and do like a 3-card Bonnie move where we're like shuffling around.
I'm
Let's
gonna
see.
break some giant cups, like human-sized red cups, and we'll hide in them. and then pop out of them. Yeah. No. This is obviously a technology that has far-reaching applications beyond the grocery store. The grocery store is the convenience of walking in and out, but shopping malls seem like, if you take shopping to the next level, tracking you throughout the scope of a shopping mall is the next thing. And then, of course, airports, amusement parks, any public location. And
Well, any
Amazon
public
has the
location
technology
they can
own.
They can put a bunch of sensors over your head.
They can own the experience for.
I would say, Bezos has faced a lot of criticisms about employee pay recently. And even though he raised it to $15 minimum wage, I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about what this means in that context, too. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out in a city like this, where that conversation is really loud.
What do you mean, the automation factor?
Yeah, how it's eliminating jobs. I mean, it doesn't on its surface right now because there's still people there, but eventually those people go away.
You can't fight that.
Oh, I know. I'm not coming down either side of this. There's sort of like an inevitable flow to it. But I think this store, given the criticism that already exists around Jeff and employee pay, is going to mean that conversation is going to exist a lot more.
Yeah. Onto the product side, tomorrow, as you're listening to this, Friday, is the release date of the iPhone XR, and reviews are out for this interesting phone. As a quick refresher, Apple announced and released the XS and the XS Max earlier this year, last month, and this is the follow-up as the... I'm not going to say the budget or the entry level, but the
least expensive new phone.
The non-premium new phone, the phone that would have otherwise have been the last year's phone priced down because there is no more iPhone 10 available. So reviews are out, and interestingly enough, maybe unsurprisingly, it's being very, very well reviewed. For the $750 price, which is $100 higher than what an iPhone cost, the high-end iPhone cost 2 years ago.
Even the Plus?
Not the Plus.
Okay.
The regular iPhone cost 2 years ago. You get something that has interestingly over 6-inch screen as opposed to the 5.8, 6.1-inch screen, LCD screen with their fast A12 processor on the inside plus the single camera on the back. Now,
that's the point. You get the same processor as their flagship phone,
which by our reports and all Geekbench numbers is incredibly fast. And all the sub-processors for the computer vision. So experientially, the two primary different things is one, the display, and two, the camera. The camera is the same really nice camera, bigger sensor, a wide-angle camera that's on the back of the XS, but they've enabled portrait mode.
But hold on, it's just one sensor.
It's one sensor.
The XS and the 10 have two sensors.
Yes. So they don't tell you exactly how they're doing this, but the portrait mode only works on human faces on the XR. So it's based on facial recognition.
I don't know how, but you have a way of making the 10 do portrait mode on non-people, and I can't do it.
You can't do it?
No. I'm always trying. Like, I'm trying to get a good photo.
The 10 and the XS can work theoretically on animals, can work on objects.
Yeah.
You have to get the right distance. It takes a little bit of finicky because it's trying to. It's using its computer vision
easier
to do
with
that.
People because it does
absolutely exactly. Okay. So using that facial recognition and using what its neural nets know about the shape of faces and what hair looks like, that's how the XR can do a wide-angle portrait view on people. But interestingly enough, that wide-angle portrait view is not enabled on the XS.
Despite having that
Despite
sensor.
having the same
It forces
sensor.
you into the telephoto.
Exactly. Because I don't think they want to confuse you with the fact that it can do only people with a wide angle and other objects like animals, which a lot of people do with the telephoto. The other big difference, of course, is the screen, LCD screen. Now, people will complain that this screen, however nice of an LCD it is essentially the same pixel density as iPhone 4. 326 ppi.
Okay.
And so if you're happy with if you've used an iPhone 4, 5, or 6, and you've been happy with that pixel density, which is, I believe, a 2x point to pixel ratio, then you should have no problem with this one.
So why will people complain?
Because if you've come from the 10 or the 10 the 10s, that's a 3x point to pixel ratio, and so
I don't
it's just
see
much
that.
denser.
There's not many people coming from the 10 to the 10R.
Yeah, I don't think so either. If you're
Isn't that
$1,000,
technically a drop in price? If you,
Yes.
yeah, right. So
but
that
with a
that's
newer
a
processor, and a better wide angle lens,
It's true.
right?
And
And a faster ID,
colors.
and colors, right? If you want that, Apple Red phone, this is the only way to do it on this form factor. Really, though,
It's also smaller. Like that actually might matter to some
it's
people.
not smaller.
Isn't it smaller than the 10?
Bigger than the 10.
No.
It's bigger than the 10 and 10s.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
It fits
wow.
between. It's actually better described as a smaller 10x Max than a bigger 10s.
So confusing.
Yeah, and because of the way they do the point-to-pixel resolution, apparently there's a setting as you set up the 10R, so you can render your home screen with the equivalent to the Max phone, the Plus phone, or the equivalent to the regular size phone. Because those phones render their point-to-pixels slightly differently. So that's actually a setting in the 10R, which I think is just extra bits of confusing. But all of this is to hide the fact that Apple is doing one of its great pricing tricks with this phone, and that's with storage. And this is the reason that if you're going to buy a new iPhone this year and want to spend over $700 on a phone, the 10R is really attractive because it's the only model that you can buy 128 gigabyte SKU.
That
Get
is
this.
lame.
The 10R and the 10S both start at 64 gigabytes.
Yeah.
For you to get the next bump up, because 64 gigs I don't think is enough for anyone using a phone day to day these days, especially shooting any 4K video or apps or whatever, or games. If you want to go up on the 10S, it's $150 more for 256, which admittedly is a huge jump, and 256 is more than anyone needs right now, let alone 512. But to go up from 10R on 64 to 128, $50.
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
No brainer is to pay to pay $800 for that 128 gig SKU on the 10R, rather than $1,150 on a 10S for the 256 SKU.
Okay.
So that's hopefully, if you're making a purchasing decision on this phone this week, that can help you. That can help inform your decision. But it really sucks that Apple doesn't offer a 128 gig SKU for their high-end phones. That they force you to pay $150 more to go from 64 to 256, because I don't think 64 is usable.
Yeah.
I know we used to complain that Apple launched their phones with 16 gigs, and that was a valid complaint as well back then. But 64, I think, in these days on phones is
I don't know. There's an argument to be made that the more that we move to streaming services, the less media we actually store on our phone. And it just comes down to how many photos do you want to keep on your phone, because those are also synced to iCloud.
Yeah, but those photos and videos synced to iCloud, you're paying for the iCloud storage. So you're paying monthly. So you're amortizing either the $2, $3 a month monthly on iCloud storage, or having it all local. And if you're using, you know what, if you're on an airplane and you don't have Wi-Fi, you're looking at old photos. That's all based and playing games, and you're doing stuff locally. And people who have iPhones now probably had iPhones back then, and you want to have all your photos from your first iPhone. Every year, you're just using more storage because you're moving more data over and over and over and over.
I come back to I think the tweet you put out yesterday. It's so weird that this phone is now the budget phone.
Yeah, and I know Apple doesn't position it. They don't say it's the budget
That's
phone.
what it is,
That's
though.
what people are calling it. And yeah, you can buy the 7. That's technically the budget phone because that is price reduced. But a lot of people will be the average price, that's what they care about. That's what the investors care about. The average selling price, the ASP of the iPhone has just gone up and up over time, and this is how Apple's maintaining all that market share and maintaining all that market cap, even. Speaking of more Apple news, they sent out invites to their next event, October 30th, next Tuesday.
The iPad event.
Well, they didn't explicitly say.
Yeah, but everybody knows.
Everyone expects it to be the iPad event. They did an interesting thing with the invites this time. They had every Apple logo in invite was a different artistic style. They had dozens of different Apple logos,
What do you mean?
done with different artists.
So, but everyone got the same invite.
Everyone got an invite,
Gotcha.
but like the logo was different on everyone's invite. For Apple.
Oh, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It's like they were all
They were all different.
What kind
Yeah.
did we get?
We didn't get one. We didn't get one.
Well,
I buried the lead. We didn't get one. Yeah. I guess the anticipation is that this is going to be very artist-driven, very creator-driven, and iPad definitely lends itself to that. The rumors are new iPad Pros, not surprising, edge screen, maybe Face ID even. A new Apple Pencil is what people are also saying, a redesigned Apple Pencil, which I think if they do that, they better find a way to have it charge without you plugging it directly into the iPad. USB-C is the other big rumor with these. And then most recently, a rumor that Apple may put out an iPad mini. And finally, a long-awaited update to the iPad mini as well. I'm not holding my breath.
If you go to an Apple store, iPad minis are all over the place. They love the iPad mini.
Well, it's the display for browsing. It's
Exactly.
an information display.
People pick it up. It's light. It's user friendly. It's my favorite iPad, so I have my fingers crossed about this one.
So for Jeremy's sake, let's hope a new iPad mini announced, and then also a new MacBook, something to replace the MacBook Air. What will they name this? Because it's not MacBook, right? There's MacBook Pro. There's MacBook, which is their super thin and light, smaller than the Air.
Oh, my God.
So what is this now entry-level MacBook that's going to replace the Air? What is that called?
Can't they just all be MacBooks? I don't know.
This is the skewification of Apple that drives me crazy.
It's weird, right? Like 10R, like Phil Schiller said, R didn't stand for anything. It's just like a car model. 10R, 10S, and 10T coming out.
I want 2 iPads and I want maybe 3 MacBooks, and we're past that, aren't we?
We're at 3 MacBooks.
Will it be 3 MacBooks?
It'll be Air at
Pro,
maybe one Pro at 2 sizes, and the MacBook.
So, I guess that's okay. The multiple sizes makes it
Pro.
weird.
I mean, it used to be Air at 2 sizes. And
Yeah.
I think that 11-inch MacBook was such a popular thin and light. And again, with their average selling price going up, they wanted the MacBook with its crappy butterfly keyboard and low Core M processing to be its replacement, even though more expensive. And that has admittedly gone better over time, but people still want that sub $1,000 competitive MacBook. I don't think Apple cares about that because they want people at that price point to buy iPads. But we'll see. We'll see next Tuesday. I may or may not be watching.
You'll be watching.
You'll find a way to watch no matter what's happening.
Find a way to watch. Well, if you want to find some other technology gadget to spend money on, here's something that may interest you. Simone, our friend Simone Yetch, launched a Kickstarter this week for her first product. This is really cool. It's her habit calendar, and she developed it here at Tested as a project to get herself in the habit of checking off our daily checklist of things. And it was just a ton
Meditating.
Exactly. Yeah. And did a ton of solderings and bought switches. And her new one is beautiful. It's bamboo frame. It has this really interesting PCB as the screen, essentially, and it's capacitive touch.
She found out that if you leave the solder mask off of the PCB, it remains transparent or translucent. So she puts an LED behind it and it shines through the PCB, which is it's very clever.
And then with this kind of copper gold sort of frame, it looks really beautiful.
Capacitive touch, so it has basically 365 lights, touch sensitive lights that you can toggle.
And also there's a USB port, so you can, if you wanted to program an animation in, it's all just Arduino, you can program an animation using those lights.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I remember her working on this in the workshop over here. And just the original one had switches instead of this capacitive touch. And she was basically soldering in there for a good solid couple weeks and cranking out math on current versus, resistance as it goes through each of these switches. It was actually kind of a joy to watch her go through the experience of building this. And it's awesome what she came out the other side. And I can't understate how powerful the personal story she attaches to why she built this and how much that seems to have resonated with, a ton of people. So
you can't overstate.
I can't overstate it.
Yeah.
Did I say understate?
You did.
I can't overstate it then. She blew away the goal. So
she did in moments.
Yes.
We'll have a video where she came to the office a couple weeks ago to show us the prototype, and we'll have a video about that prototype and her development process on the site in a week, a week and a half or so.
I asked her about the prototype yesterday on Twitter, and she said it's sitting in the corner being mad that the pretty one is on her wall.
It got included in the video.
Yeah, it did.
BuzzFeed had a really big story this week, which probably should be our biggest tech story this week. They uncovered a scam,
No.
an app scam in which rogue apps were harvesting ad money, essentially. The way they're doing this is fascinating.
On what devices?
On Android devices.
Okay.
So several Android devices got were purchased and
So they took legitimate apps and then bought them.
bought them, still published them, and users that would use them, as they would use any other app, would input human actions on these, and those human actions were recorded and then used by bots to basically browse and look and get ads paid for.
They basically bought users in this complicated scheme and used them to program bots to generate ad revenue. And so the apps they bought are kind of like low level apps, like stuff that, not many users were attached to necessarily, so they could be purchased for a low price.
You're talking about like they purchased the rights to distribute the app?
No, they bought the whole app, just outright. And
That's what I mean. They didn't
yeah.
download it. They bought
No.
they bought it from the company.
They bought it from the company. Sorry.
Got it.
Yeah. And so they, in this BuzzFeed investigation, they talked to some of the people that had their app purchased, and they talked about how shady it was. Like they would have these Skype calls, and they got paid in Bitcoin, and
Okay, just give us the money.
yeah. But I mean, it was always like twice as much as probably the app development was worth.
Oh, really?
So there's always like a little what's going on here, and it was funky in terms of where the addresses were associated to the account. Really sophisticated. How do they get caught?
I'm not exactly sure, but the thing is, they were also tied to the web pages, right? The web pages, websites that were generating the ad revenue were then had like fake virtual browsers, and the bots would direct those user actions. And so it's a problem within the web ad infrastructure as a whole, that how ad revenue is tracked and generated, because it's simulated, and it's tough to sniff out what's a real actor and what's not a real actor.
What's amazing is that I think Google has fraud detection built into these ad systems to look for this bot traffic. But what they did is they blended this human action in with the bots to fool that fraud protection.
So the BuzzFeed story says that this was detected when an app called Megacast had displaying unique ideas of other apps to bid for ads. So it was in the code for and the behavior of one of these apps that was bought and then disseminated.
So it was pretending to be like a different app, and and somebody got flagged. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long did they pull this off?
It looks like a couple years.
Wow. And are they busted, or did they just shut down the apps?
2015.
So BuzzFeed estimated $75 million accumulated damage per year, and experts they talked about said that's probably about only 10% of what actually was stolen. That it could have been $500 to a million to $1 billion of ad revenue just went lost. Amazon shouldn't be worried about convenience store shoplifting. Google should be worried about ad theft.
I'm sure they actually are worried about this kind of stuff. This is a fascinating long read, and we'll share it around.
Yeah. We'll move on to cars and some car talk. Apple filed an interesting patent this week about.
Well, they didn't file. They filed it 2 years ago.
And it was just uncovered.
Yes, it was just uncovered.
Okay. Tell us about this patent, Jeremy.
Okay, so
before I pass judgment.
Have you seen footage of an airplane refueling in midair? Right?
Yeah.
Pulling up to the tanker plane and inserting the gas hose into the receptacle, getting the gas. You've seen this,
one of the scariest
Sure.
things to have
Exactly.
to do in space in the sky.
I would imagine it is. I hope the plane I'm on never has to do that. Well, Apple has released a patent for cars to do the same thing while on the highway. Electric cars to share power in the egalitarian world
Like
of the electric
like
cars.
a big truck comes on
No.
that's like a big power
No,
battery.
like-
Your car will line up with my car.
In the when we all own Apple cars, we will, and you're running low on battery, and we're driving to the same place. You pull up next to me, right behind me,
while driving
and out comes your
at
port.
65 miles per hour,
You-
and they will tether.
You insert your port
They
into
tether?
my jack.
So it isn't
Caravan
like this
style.
inductive kind of thing.
No,
dude.
like
It's
a-
a physical connection.
This is one of the worst ideas
At
I've
65
ever heard.
miles an hour. Will it?
And watch this, and also dynamically adjust for aerodynamics.
Oh, of course it does.
The caravan, while physically tethered, not only will be more power efficient, but also be more aerodynamically efficient.
Is anywhere in the patent like the words like imagine the car as a sphere, just like in any physics course? This is so ridiculous.
Here's my question: why don't they have this for phones?
There's some funny language in this. First, they refer to a peloton, which apparently is a line of bicycles usually, but that's how they refer to this line of cars. This is literally, I checked the actual patent. This is the quote: a vehicle configured to be autonomously navigated in a peloton along the highway, wherein the peloton comprises at least one additional vehicle, is configured to determine a position of the vehicle in the peloton, which reduces differences in relative driving ranges among the vehicles included in the peloton.
I've already tuned out. That
So-
makes no sense.
Okay, so like the whole tethering idea is ridiculous, but the idea of these group of cars moving in mass and sharing data to one another,
All good.
I think there's some interesting stuff that can happen there, right?
agree.
Wirelessly.
Yes,
Do it
of course.
wirelessly.
Yeah, yes, not with a
How
tether.
about AirPlay for cars, or AirDrop for cars?
But sharing like road conditions, sharing like all sorts of
I'm
information.
braking.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. That's the crazy future of electric cars, or at least intelligent cars.
Once again, I ask, why can't we do this with phones, where I can have a lightning to lightning connector and sift power off your phone to my phone?
Because it's inequity, Norm. Because you constantly using your battery, and I'm saving up mine.
Yeah, I don't know. What is Apple going to do with this car situation? And clearly, as Phil Schiller in his iPhone 10R interview, he loves cars, loves fast sports cars. A lot of people at Apple love cars. When are they going to make? Has the time passed for them to make a car?
Do you think?
No, dude. What?
No, not at all. I don't think the market has even been proved yet. We're getting closer.
Where they got to buy that factory now?
They're waiting for Elon to make that second tweet that is really going to cause a drop in price, and then buy. No, I'm kidding. I don't think that's actually going to happen.
This kind of thinking relies on an infrastructure change. So this is a massive. We're way off here.
You're saying you need the 3G before you can sell the iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, chicken and egg. I don't know. It would be amazing to see an infrastructure change to the highway system, though.
Apple is not known for being first to market with an idea either.
Yeah.
They just come best in market.
Well, that's just the brand power. Maybe its infrastructure change is so vast that we're talking not about on the roads and pavement, but under the roads and tunnels. And again, another venture that Elon is heavily invested in with the Hyperloop. And Hyperloop 1, he tweeted, will get its first test soon.
What do you mean? It's been tested. What do you mean by?
We'll go live? What is it? What is this? He announces the test tunnel opening date for the tunnel that the Boring Company,
Which one?
the first tunnel, the Boring Company's Hyperloop test tunnel.
But they're making a few of them on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Well,
Which one is this?
this is the one in
Hawthorne, California.
That's right. And December 10th is one that's coming up.
He says free rides for the public the next day.
Dude, now that's something we should go to.
Maybe you have to make sure you bring your Tesla and your flamethrower.
I know someone with a Tesla.
And how do you get to the top of that list?
Frank got a flamethrower.
Yeah, refer 10 people, and you might get to ride in the Hyperloop. 760 miles. That'd be quite a thrill ride.
What? No. What? The top speed is 760 miles per hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the speed. I'm not talking about distance. Not yet. That would be more than the length of California. That would be a third of the way across the United States. On the Tesla front, here's something interesting. Tesla announced a new Model 3. Surprise.
What does that mean? A new battery size?
A new battery size. No, previously the Model 3 was announced with two ranges, a 310 mile range and I believe a 220 mile range. They only sell the long range one right now. They still don't sell the entry level range one because that's the $35,000 car that everyone hoped for.
Yeah.
And even between those two ranges, theoretically, you would be able to buy a single motor, a rear motor, and no, that wasn't a text. Nope, not a text. That was just Apple telling me to stand up. Single motor or a dual motor all-wheel drive model, which I believe was like $4,000 or $5,000 more.
Okay.
For better acceleration in transitions between highway and city streets. Well, they make more money off the dual motor. They make more money off the big battery. They don't want to really. I don't think they really want to sell that entry-level car. So in the meantime, they developed a new battery pack for a 260-mile range. Now, to get in on this, and this came out of nowhere.
What's the range of the current one?
310.
310. Okay.
So 50 miles less. And I'll say this, as from my experience, even though you have 310, you really only have to. You're thinking about it really as 280. You're really thinking of 10% off the top because you never charge it to the max.
250 is 220 then, basically, or 225.
225. You're basically, if you're buying a 260, you're basically talking about 230. 225 with some, vampire drain overnight or something, which is more than enough for a day trip, and I think definitely better peace of mind than being in the 100s. If you buy a 220 mile, you're talking about really 200, 190.
Isn't that what your Bolt is right now, Jeremy? 220, something like that.
Yeah, 230.
So this is to compete, I think, with that Bolt, that kind of new wave of, and I think Porsche and Volkswagen and Audi they have all cars in that range. Or coming out soon. You still have to buy the premium option, and this is the only way to get the single motor. If you get the 310, if you want the full, you have to buy the two motor now.
No way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they raised the price of the long range,
Huh.
and they introduced this as a mid range.
Weird.
So anyone who got the long range and was able to save money and by only getting a single motor, congratulations.
What if I want full autopilot?
You can't buy full autopilot. They also quietly removed the text and offer for full autopilot because
You can buy it. It's off the menu.
it's off menu.
Yeah, it's off menu. It's off menu for a limited time, and then it's going to be.
It's a secret menu.
And then it's no longer even going to be off the menu. It's just like you can't have it.
Until they upgrade the chips.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
redo the hardware and have the new processing board. And I think it makes sense because they've sold 100,000 of these cars, and some portions, a significant portion maybe of them already paid for the autopilot, and it's going to cost Tesla money to install new hardware. So why not? They did the math, and accounting wise, maybe it makes more sense for them to not sell it as an option now.
This screams to me, let's maximize our margins and bank some money.
Okay.
Yeah. I was
right?
surprised
Because it's like lowering the battery, which is like a principal cost here.
Yeah, and a lot of speculation was like, was this new battery option, is it software limited? Was it one of those things where you have a 260 mile, but then you could buy and pay to unlock and unlock those cells? It's not, because the weight of the car is less. It actually is a lighter car. So they developed a new battery size to put into their platform. And of course, everyone's still waiting for the Model Y. So, good on them for making, reaching their milestones and making thousands of cars a week. The real test will be really at the beginning of next year when the federal tax rebate goes away, and people don't get $7,500 off their car, and it costs more, and whether they can really start delivering and selling the entry level $35,000 car.
If you bought the Model 3 like base model,
Yeah.
which a lot of people still haven't gotten that car
option.
yet.
Yep.
How does this make you feel? This development, I think it's still like this feels like still a cut in line.
This
To you,
totally feels like a cut in line because you're basically losing. There's no chance you're going to get in on that full tax rebate. If you don't get a car delivered by December 31st, 2018, you cannot take off $7,500 off your taxes. You get half of that next year, but that price difference at that point, pay for the more miles, get the bigger battery on the car. That's exactly what Tesla wants.
I feel whoever's left in that line that's still waiting for whatever that $40,000 kind of base model, this has got to suck for you, but at the same time, it makes sense for the company as a whole.
There's no chance to get those incentives extended, huh?
No, and in fact, there are talks in Congress and lobbyists who are trying to get the incentives reversed, charge an extra fee for electric vehicles because, as their argument goes, electric cars don't pay the tax on their power
Yeah.
as you do on gas for maintaining of roads.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Which is, you're also saving a lot on the carbon.
You know, one incentive that people don't consider when buying an electric car that's not from Tesla, because Tesla has the excellent supercharger network, is the infrastructure growing around, at least around California over the next several years, of free chargers. They're popping up all over the place at malls that I go to, and I know there are plans to extend those along the entire state as the years progress. I mean, so that's something you don't consider when you're thinking about an electric car, and it certainly is helpful.
But it's also, that's much less important than in the more remote places where there's just bigger distances and you're driving more. Like, that's where these kind of networks really would benefit. And having supercharge or some type of fast charge or even free charging between those, that's the thing that's going to move, replace those gas stations with electric chargers. That's a big business opportunity for a company like Tesla, which owns solar companies.
So what's the etiquette? I've pulled into a charger before, and I pulled into the fast charger spot.
Okay.
And someone who's parked in the slow charger spot was using the fast charger.
That is not cool.
It's not cool.
That is not cool whatsoever.
I've also pulled into the fast charger spot when the adjacent non-charging spot had stretched the fast charger over and used it there.
Oh, no. Not cool.
Am I allowed to unplug these people?
Yes. You're the only one in the fast charger spot who's technically allowed to use that fast charger.
But is it cool to do that? Or should I leave my charge port open and expect them to plug me in when they're done?
They won't do it.
Why not?
Because
There's no way they'll do that.
No way they'll do that. You should leave a note.
I don't have a pen and paper.
You live in the digital world.
Exactly.
That's what they need.
Take a photo and tweet it.
AirPlay for that, where you can angry drop notes to other cars.
A dashboard.
I will say, like, there's two types of charge ports that aren't Tesla. I don't even know what they're called. But my Bolt has one and the Leaf has the other. The Leaf was in the adjacent spot, the non-charging spot, using the fast charger. I left him plugged in, and I plugged mine in. And the machine said, as soon as the Leaf is done charging, I will begin charging. And it worked out.
Okay. So the system worked. You can't
Yes.
use that Leaf charger.
Right.
So and you're fast charging. You got your fast charging regardless.
It all worked out.
It all worked out. But that's still bad etiquette.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. There's a lot of smug going on with those Leaf drivers.
The Verge published an interesting article today about a research project done at MIT. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read this because it just came out today, but it's interesting. Have you ever heard of the trolley problem?
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Okay, the trolley.
It's in The Good Place.
Please, is it?
It's an episode of The Good Place called The Trolley Problem.
Explain the trolley problem for our friends at home.
It's a dilemma about who do you save if you're on a trolley heading toward a group of people. It's a decision making thing of like how do you value one life over the other.
Yeah, it's a philosophical decision. It's usually framed as if the trolley's run away. If you let it go on its current path, it's going to kill one person. If you turn it, it's going to kill 4 others.
I think it's the other way around.
Or it's whatever.
I think it's important that it's the other way around because you have the power to, on its current course, it would kill 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
If you switch tracks, it will kill one person. So do you take action? Because it's your taking action that controls the fate of these people. Well, that's, it's hard to answer that question, obviously. But this research project has asked people from all over the world, 233 countries, millions of people have been interviewed to find out how they value different lives. And their intent is to show car manufacturers what they need to be thinking about when they program their autopilots and self-driving computers.
Do you have
and how those computers should be valuing life?
Right. When you buy your self-driving car, is this like a survey thing? Like when you turn on the car, choose your trolley problem answer with a visualization. You tap the screen, tap the right side to take action. Tap the left side. Well, you as a user have now made that choice.
Exactly. I mean,
this is my whole problem with this entire scenario, by the way, is that we have private companies making their own decision, like are deciding the ethics themselves. And so their processes are going to be different and inconsistent.
well, one country, according to this article, actually has, there's only one country, has published its own official stance on this, and it is that it should value all life equally, regardless of age and race and gender and all these other factors. And whether or not that actually is in line with the people, that's Germany, by the way, whether or not that's in line with the people's opinion is it's probably not, because according to this research, people widely value young people over the elderly. In Europe, and in North America, they value famous people more than non-famous people.
God, thank goodness.
Every
Are you putting yourself in that famous category?
It's all relative. It's all relative.
Everybody seems to value people more than animals.
Okay.
But that's not true from country to country. There's always like these weird things.
I love my dog very much.
But what I didn't see considered anywhere in this article is, when is the life of the driver the least important?
Meaning, like, what's a scenario where that is?
If there's a trolley scenario where the car is going to hit one person, or like a child or a group of people, or it can drive off a cliff, should it drive off a cliff? And that isn't mentioned anywhere.
Yeah. Isn't the assumption the driver in that stance, assuming they are not in the wrong, their life is valued the most?
So I interviewed somebody for my science podcast that was talking about algorithms in this context. And I think we oftentimes compare it to the absolute, like in the context of the trolley problem, where it's like, well, how do we make this decision to save the most lives, or whatever your sort of thinking is. But that's not actually what's happening. We should be comparing this situation to what would happen if a human driver was making this decision versus the computer driver. And the human driver, in a lot of these scenarios, is going to make either a random choice, a choice that potentially hurts more people, and could still result in the choice that ends up killing the driver itself. Because if you're in that situation as a human driver where it's like, I'm going to hit the 4 people or the 1 people, or I drive off the cliff, you might make that split-second decision where you swerve and you end up driving off the cliff anyways.
Well, that's the point, is that if you are in a terrible accident and you end up in court and there's filings, whatever you did was a split-second instinctive decision. You didn't think through anything. Whereas what we're talking about is the car manufacturers premeditating and establishing algorithms that lead to certain outcomes.
Lots of waivers signed. Lots of waivers.
I think that's but though, if we compare it to what would happen if the human was driving, where there's going to be loss of life anyways, now we get to make some potential decisions around this that leads to loss of life that is much more predictable.
Yeah,
that's all. Intense question.
I'm with you, dude, and I think that's powerful stuff, and that is the kind of decisions that have to be made. But it's not ones that we as a race are used to making, and it's very difficult to rationalize them.
Heady stuff to end this technology section.
I will just say, I think the biggest question isn't so much the decision we come to as a society, but how that gets integrated into each of these private companies' process for these algorithms being developed.
They will do whatever it takes to put them at least liability.
Yeah.
And they will operate on a business sense. Is my guess.
Yeah.
Before we move on to our next segment, I want to thank the sponsor that makes this episode possible, and that's MailChimp. MailChimp is an easy-to-use marketing platform with a name that might make it sound like they only do email, but they do just about everything to help businesses grow, with email ads, postcards, landing pages, audience management tools, automations, reports, and more. You'll know you're doing marketing right. Growth looks different to everyone. So MailChimp helps you guide you to make the right marketing decisions for your business. You can create a customer list, connect an online store, test an email variation, or analyze a marketing report. And MailChimp understands business owners would rather focus on their passion rather than focus on marketing. So they automated the marketing process to make it easier for you to get back to doing what you love. They started by just doing email marketing, but now they do so much more. You could say that they outgrew their name. And now their marketing tools can help you do the same. Go to MailChimp.com and sign up for free to see how MailChimp can help grow your business. MailChimp, they do more than email.
I'm a pinball nerd. Pin. Just to my point. Finally, pinball. That makes me very happy. Stern Pinball is known for releasing superhero pinball games, and they're known for releasing rock band pinball games. There is one rock band who has always been on the horizon. When, if, why haven't they? Where is that game? Can you imagine what rock band that might be?
Led Zeppelin.
Yes, it is Led Zeppelin. However, that is not. That's absolutely true. But the other one that they actually announced is the Beatles. We have a Beatles pinball game coming who knows when.
Based on which era of the
Soon.
Beatles? All
Well,
eras?
I mean, the entire Beatles era is only like 6 years, right?
Right, but which I guess.
Are you
aesthetic
talking
style,
Abbey
which-
Road,
Oh, yeah.
White Album? What are we
Yeah.
out here?
I'm thinking it's who knows, because there's only one trailer that's been released, but it feels like earlier, like pre-Sgt. Pepper's to me, like
Okay.
that kind of vibe.
Okay, Yellow Submarine.
Just like love songs,
Got it.
like radio hits, but I can't say because no one has any details yet. But the point is, it is a Beatles game. No price has been announced yet.
The art is shown.
They will only be making 1,964 of them.
Is that a lot or not a lot?
Well, it's who knows. They don't release sales figures or numbers for their games, but I think 2,000 they'd be happy with 2,000 sales of anything.
Yeah.
So it's probably they're fine with that. But it also means it truly is limited. They haven't done a truly limited game that I can remember. So it's gonna mean something. Like if you own one, you know there's only that many of them, and the people expect the price to reflect that, which means probably over $5,000
Wow.
for a game that is a reskinned Sea Witch,
Oh no, I didn't realize it was reskinned.
which is a Stern game as well from the old Stern pinball from 1980. So it's been, almost 40 years since that game, and it's basically the same playfield with a few additions. It has a 2-ball multi-ball. There's some targets behind some drops and that kind of thing.
Does it have a full LCD display?
I don't think so. I could be mistaken about that, actually. I
What?
don't remember seeing that in the trailer.
No video? Isn't that like standard for Stern?
I would kind of hope it doesn't, just because it's not from that era. Like the games from the 60s didn't have any kind of display like that. It was all
It's
EMs
really
back then.
banking on the music then.
Yeah, so obviously it has, the Beatles music, and it's day glow colors, and it looks like that era. Has a spinner in the center, it looks like with a magnet on it.
The spinner is
It's a record.
Record, yeah.
What is that media called? And it's got an upper flipper, just like Sea Witch, where you hit that loop, and it's fun. It's got a couple spinners. And so we finally have our Beatles game. Whether it's any good, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I like spinners though, so we'll see.
People do love spinners. If you're a Beatles fan and you don't really care about, is the pinball going to be the next big thing, but you kind of like pinball, I think this might interest you. And if you see one on location, know that there's only about 2,000 of those things in existence.
Now it's time for a moment of science.
So last week I talked about the failed Soyuz launch. Actually, I think I might have talked about it 2 weeks ago. But more details have come out. There's this really riveting video where NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine actually interviews the U.S. astronaut that was on board, Nick Hague, about the experience. And we have transcripts of the audio from Russian ground control up to the Soyuz capsule. So we know what he was saying. and just remember this for a second, all of the communication that's happening on board between the cosmonaut and the American astronaut is in Russian. So all of our astronauts are trained to speak in Russian during this entire thing. So everything was translated. And Nick is the one that that actually said that we're pulling 6.7 Gs. And he talks in this video about the experience of going weightless and seeing like a piece of debris kind of coming across the capsule. So they knew, at this point, like they're in for something big coming in the next few seconds because they know they're about to start following. And how he used his training about like kind of his core strength and breathing techniques to withstand that G load. And that G load, they didn't actually end up passing out because the G load didn't stay for that long. And they had actually trained up to about 10 to 12 Gs, withstanding that for a few seconds. And he talks about the process of following and all of the different sort of solutions that they went in place. There were actual decisions that they were making on board the craft that they had to communicate and execute. We didn't actually think that at first. We thought it was all automated, all out of their control. They were just going for a ride. No, they were actually doing stuff on board, which makes the story even crazier.
Jeez.
Like, you're basically in a rocket that's malfunctioned. You're falling back to Earth, and they're executing commands. And they talk about landing, and they end up being upside down in the capsule once they land. And they're immediately, what happens is they launch a plane as spotters, and they are skydiving from the plane once they see the location as a group of people to actually rapid response to where the capsule lands.
Skydivers are the rapid responders.
Wait,
Yes,
skydiver, like you mean like scuba divers would be for somebody who's
Yeah.
underwater? Oh
And
my
they
God.
got to them within about 5 minutes of them hitting the Earth. So they're in the capsule. Decide. He talks about this, like, do I unbuckle my belt and kind of, like fall and, hit the edge of the capsule, or do I wait the other couple minutes upside down? And he said, they ended up waiting, and like somebody came and knocked on their window.
Wow.
So it's incredible tale. All that leads into the next story, which is basically, we had talked about December was the next launch window for Soyuz to get to the space station because we still have 3 people aboard the ISS. Jim Bridenstine said that we're going to go with that launch window. We're not going to push it back. And initial sort of anonymous sources have come out and started to talk about what actually happened, what went wrong. So at this point, the rumors is that the rocket booster was improperly attached to the rocket core. And so when it was supposed to fall away, it actually hit the rocket core as it was falling away, led to a deceleration, which kicked in the systems that automated the ejection of the Soyuz capsule. And that Russia has launched 3 investigations that are slated to close by the end of the month about why this happened. But as far as I can tell, our NASA administrator's comments indicate that he's gotten some promising information from the Russian agency at this point that they're going to move forward with the December launch at this point, which is really surprising to hear. We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I guess like details of the report will be out probably in about a week, and we'll know more then. But I think this is all good news. Watch that video. It's just incredible. By the way, when I say it's riveting, it's not riveting in terms of emotion. It's very flat. He's like, they're just kind of having a ho-hum conversation like we do on this podcast, but they're talking about some of the most insane things ever. Basically free fall from the edge of space.
Are they bringing more people up or just bringing people home?
They're bringing 2. It would be 2 new astronauts going up.
Okay.
1 astronaut, 1 cosmonaut. And what was funny about the Nick Hague interview is at the end he's like, I hope you send me on another mission back up to space and that's very astronaut-like. He kind of got robbed from going to space.
Explorers, man.
Yeah. Another update. A couple months ago, I talked about this, the National Museum in Rio de Janeiro burning to the ground.
Yep.
And there was systems not in place to stop the fire. Well, we have an update on the recovery process that's going on. So one of the most famous there's 2 kind of really prized items in that museum. There's thousands of things that are priceless that can't be replaced. But one of them is the skull of Lucia, which is one of our oldest human remains. It's about 12,000 years old. That is like very early human. It was discovered in 1975. They're able to retrieve it from a metal cabinet that it was stored in with limited damage. So they did recover that.
All right.
The other is that there is a meteorite called Angra dos Reis, which dates back 4.5 billion years.
What? Wait a minute. Isn't that the life of our planet?
No, but the meteorite is older than the Earth. Well, it's about the same age as the Earth itself. And they were able to recover that also from a metal cabinet.
Wow.
And it's okay. So this gives a lot of hope that they're able, because a lot of these items were stored in metal containers, that they're able to recover.
Were they on
more.
display in metal containers, or they had just been stored?
No. These were in collections areas, and they were
great.
in these storage cabinets.
Good.
So this gives a lot of hope that they'll be able to recover more than they thought. I'm sure there's still stuff that has been lost forever, but at least this gives us a sense of hope. And the last story, I think I've actually talked about this before too, but we'll see if you remember. What do you think the largest organism in the world is?
Is it the roots of a tree?
The skin of the blue whale.
Norm wins. There is a set of aspen trees called the pando trees
I didn't read the story.
that are the largest organism by weight. It's about 6 football fields in size. And even though there's individual trees that come up, these aspen trees, when you genetically test them, they have the exact same DNA, and they share this underground root system. Now, I know for those listeners that are out there, there is a larger organism by area that exists. It's the honey mushroom that's on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is about the size of the Mall of America.
What?
But putting that aside, the aspen grove in Utah has been shrinking, and scientists have been trying to understand why, and they've looked at satellite photographs. And they figured it out, and it's the most mundane thing ever. There's a bunch of deer just eating the trees.
Aww.
And so they tested out, what if we stop letting the deer eat the trees? What will happen? And the forest regrew. It is like the most simple solution. So they are now cordoning off this area around the edge of this forest from these deer, and the largest organism in the world is recovering.
You gotta be careful with that stuff, though, man, because they used to keep the trees from burning in Yosemite, and then that was a problem, and the Native Americans had always let them burn, and they had fresher soil and regrowth.
Yeah, I believe these deer are not native to the area, and that's why the pruning was leading to some fight back.
Those migrants.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
This will be a short week, right? Nothing big happened in VR.
This was our other contender for top story this week, but we're going to save it for the VR Minute. A big shakeup. Big? We don't know, actually, how big this shakeup could be.
There was a big moment for the internet.
Yes.
That's for sure.
So Brendan Reeb, who is one of the co-founders of Oculus, who was one who brought along the team that kind of turned Oculus from a garage startup into a company with Palmer Luckey and other leadership.
Original CEO.
Yeah, he was the original CEO, and one kind of orchestrated the sale to Facebook. Has left the company. Now, he was not CEO for in the past couple of years. Right. He was head of the PC arm of Oculus, PC VR. So speculation was that he was running the Rift 2 development, although that's still speculation. Whatever his actual title there was. But he posted a Facebook message indicating he'd left the company.
On good terms?
Sounded like on good terms.
Yeah.
Optimistic toward the next thing. But the reporting this on TechCrunch also indicated that the Rift 2 was canceled, and that was the reason for this departure. Now, that, of course, would be a very big deal, and a lot of speculation on the internet side as to what actually means. Facebook has since come out to say, not explicitly that the Rift 2 isn't canceled, when Rift 2 is something that people at Oculus we've talked to.
It hasn't been announced.
It hadn't been announced, but they've kind of mentioned it in as much of those terms, right? Calling it Rift 2. Even as recently as on stage at Oculus Connect 5, Mark Zuckerberg talked about the 3 arms of Oculus. The PC side with Rift and being the first generation, the Quest and Go. And all 3 of those, we presume, would go forward. And the 2, honestly, the ones that we thought would be merged would be Go and Quest going forward, the mobile VR. So you see PC VR and mobile VR. And even most of Michael Abrash's talk was about PC-based VR, tethered VR going forward.
Well, he runs the research lab where they're doing a bunch of cutting-edge technology that really you can only imagine currently in a PC headset.
Exactly. So whatever, I don't think TechCrunch would have published something without some knowledge to back it up. But whether or not that was actually Rift 2 as a product, or if we're talking about just changing timetables, changing feature sets, we don't know. That's still as yet unknown. Facebook has only come out to say that they're still pursuing development on the PC side, and the stuff that Brendan was working on will make its way into a future product.
And this isn't a larger exodus. Like John Carmack said, he's staying through Quest, and other folks have said that they're not leaving the organization. So before we let that go,
Carmack said he plans to stay beyond Quest.
Yeah,
he's in it for the long term. Thank goodness.
Yep. And
Nate Mitchell is still there.
Yep.
The only founder who really remains there now.
Part of the original team.
Yeah.
I mean, would you count Carmack in that?
No,
even though he did the early.
He didn't come on until Facebook came on.
Right, but in terms of having contributed to the original vision, working with those people,
there's no one I think who is more important to the research. Well, maybe Abrash, but really, no, I don't think he's a part of the original team.
Yeah. And the idea was that we're still hoping for some announcements next year, right? Like if Quest comes out early next year, Q1, then hopefully by OC6, we would hope to see glimpses and first hands-ons with a Rift 2. Even if that wasn't going to come out till 2020.
So let's just speculate for a moment, or not even speculate. Let's just hypothesize. What if they did cancel Rift 2? Wouldn't that make good business decision? What?
I think there's something there, because I think this adoption, if we're talking about broad adoption, building the user base for VR, I'm not sure a high-end PC solution is the easiest way to go about that versus something like the Quest.
I would say that it's definitely, I could understand it from a business decision, whether it's good or not for the VR business is something else, the VR industry.
Yes.
But from a business decision, they also spend a lot of money on the Oculus Studio content, all of which is, vast majority of which, money-wise, is on the PC side. That's also where all the attention is. You're not going to get the same type of enthusiasm or...
What attention?
Like the media attention. We care about Echo Arena. Mm-hmm. We care about Lone Echo 2. We care about Stormland. That's all Rift. That's all PC side.
I think that's all sixed off. And eventually, we're going to see a lot of that come down to Quest, and future generations of Quest will be powerful enough to run most of it.
So you're saying the smart business decision is to take that Oculus Studios resource and perhaps focus it. If they were to focus all just development and marketing on Quest, it being sixed off, that's better for potentially VR as a whole.
No, absolutely not. No, I want Rift 2 more than anybody. But I'm saying wouldn't it make good business? Because for me, Facebook has invested $3 billion in this. Then they had to pay more because of the lawsuit. They're selling these pieces of hardware at cost. And it's where's the return? They have to narrow their vision at some point. And it seems like a lot of people are very excited about Quest, saying it's the best of both worlds. If it's time to make any kind of cutback and hard decision, that's the one I would make.
Let me give you another hypothesis. What if you had a Rift 2 that was going to be on the very high end of pushing the boundaries of what current graphics cards can do, current PC setups, so that is a very high-end VR system that requires a high-end PC? What if we pulled that back to a Rift 1.5 that used much more available hardware, was a medium ground between where the Rift is now and where the technology could allow it to go? I bring this up because it would kind of indicate that oh, if that super high-end thing, and that's what Brendan was actually working on,
We don't know.
Yeah, I know. Like there's a lot of speculation in this. But if that's what got canceled or got shelved or changed or pushed off, I could imagine Brendan leaving under those conditions.
Yeah, me too.
I can also imagine him leaving because the time was up and his
Sure.
role was diminished, and he did his job, which was to run the company like a company and get it bought by a bigger company to
Totally.
to move the industry forward.
But this idea of bringing down how edge pushing Rift 2 is as a business decision is, I could also see that
I'm
being
gonna
a
use it-
reasonable course
put
of
it
action.
in the same analogy as the car stuff. So, the Quest is their Model 3, and they're not making the Roadster,
Okay.
right? The prestige product,
Uh-huh.
and the thing or maybe even it's the high-end Model S,
Yeah.
right? Like that, they're still going to make the thing because there's a market for it, and that's the thing that's going to get enthusiasts and hopefully get gamers over to the platform, because that's how you have market penetration on the computing side, right? You want gamers interested, and you want people who are like on the Tesla side. You want people who are into cars interested, because then you own the bigger picture, which is computing.
But we don't know what they've discovered about the cost of manufacturing some of the inventions that Abrash has come up with.
That's scary.
And his team.
I mean, but then you got to put that investment in, because that benefits theoretically the mobile side in the future. Like,
Potentially? Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Maybe the smart thing to do on the business side is to streamline the software. Like the big thing is right now, like one's on an ARM side, ARM Android side, and one's on the PC side, right? You need to make sure developers can develop for both at the same time easily, and that's not an easy task. But maybe that's the thing that needs rethinking.
But the thing is, we do have some information because we know that a Rift 2 has to have a higher end display than the Rift 1. And we know a lot about where display technology is going just based on the phone market. And that is not coming down in price.
They said as much on their keynotes. They can't rely on the phone stuff. It's all custom, bespoke hardware now, and they have to generate their own economies of scale. And the way to do that is someone's got to put their foot in. Someone's got to foot the bill.
Yeah. So we still hold out hopes for Rift 2.
Totally.
I wonder if we should temper our expectations about
what Rift 2
whether
is.
it will be that half dome prototype or a scaled back version of it.
I really hope it's not a scaled back version of it.
It's reasonable to expect that, though.
Especially if they want to maintain the price point.
Keep an eye on Michael Abrash's LinkedIn, I guess.
Or at least his network.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to say, like, this, like, monitoring of where these executives go, I think is overdone. And it's partially because of the Instagram founders leaving Facebook too, that this is a bigger story than it might be, because it's pretty typical when a company gets acquired for people from that leadership to leave. So like you said, Brendan leaving isn't necessarily that big of a deal.
The smarter business decision is something they also did and went a little under the radar, which is to end movie rentals and purchases natively on their platform. It made a lot of sense as a business to pursue if you're building media platform hardware to also own the store, but clearly people weren't really invested in it, and people were sideloading.
Well, this is This is actually only Rift.
Only on Rift.
Yeah, they're actually continuing the movie store purchases and rentals on Go and
So that actually does not bode well for the Rift
Samsung.
team.
Oh, well, I mean, I just think they were
Closing
right.
doors and closing doors.
Carmack said that the Rift platform was 80-20 in favor of games, whereas the portables were flipped.
Or media.
Yeah, maybe this is a metric thing.
I think the problem was they should have only been marketing 3D movies.
Yeah.
Because VR is in many ways the best way to view them.
Yeah.
But no, that you could barely find the 3D films. You really have to search through all their catalog in order to find them.
Yeah, I mean, 3D films are less sold from the home market anyway. So the home video departments of those studios are not releasing as much. They're focusing more energies on 4K and HDR and Dolby Atmos. Yeah. Last bit of hardware news that we'll talk about. Last bit of news we'll talk about on the podcast this week. Samsung has quietly announced and is shipping a new headset for Windows Mixed Reality, the Samsung Odyssey Plus.
They already had the flagship Windows mixed reality headset.
$500 was the most expensive, but it had the built-in headphones and had the best resolution and had the nice OLED display. Now, their new one, which has same resolution, 1440 by 1600 per eye, they're calling has a new filter, new anti-screen door effect, anti-SDE
Wait a minute. What do you
filter.
mean? What do you mean filter? What is that? Like a software filter, or what do you mean?
Not exactly sure. So the claim is that, I'll read this verbatim for Samsung's quote, is that their anti-SDE AMOLED display solves SDE by applying a grid that diffuses light coming from each pixel
Ew, I'm not sure I like
and
that.
replicating the picture to round the areas of its pixels, making the pixels bigger to compensate for the spaces in between.
But
so
are they
higher
perfect? Are they
pixel
no
fill.
longer perfectly square?
They are perfectly square.
Okay.
Now, this makes the spaces between the pixels impossible to see. Again, their quote.
Yeah.
So, in result, your eyes perceive the diffused light with a this is the part I don't like. Their perceived PPI of 1233 perceived PPI. That is
Wait a
a
minute.
bullshit
Why
number.
would it change the PPI?
This is again their perceived PPI. It would. You're right. This is it makes no sense. Double. It's basically they're saying it doubles the perceived pixel density. Now, apparently, PSVR uses something similar already.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that PSVR, while not having the highest resolution display, has
in fact, it has the lowest.
has the lowest, but looks like it has a really, really good pixel fill and very minimal screen door. I like every time I use PSVR, I like how little screen door I see. Is because it uses something like this. So if you can apply that same effect to a relatively high resolution display at the 1440 by 1600, that could be really effective. I really want to try this headset. We've reached out to Samsung to see if they will let us try it, but it's also available in the Samsung store right now. Same price, $500, and of course, Windows Mixed Reality. So you're using those controllers.
If it was in the Amazon Go store, I'd say let's go.
You go, walk in, walk out,
Yeah,
see if they
let's-
actually
let's
picked it
go
up.
Try it.
Yeah, no trials in the Amazon Go store. They're tracking the packages.
What is a trial in the Amazon Go store?
Opening.
Why don't you try out this soda, see if you like it?
Sometimes
then
you
you
go
can
to the
pay
store,
it.
you open the box, and you see what's inside. You close the box.
What? Are you talking about
Where
people?
do you do that?
Are you talking about people handing out cookies and like little
No,
toothpicks with food on it?
no. Sometimes you go to a store and you kind of open the box, make sure everything's in the box, and then
You know
close
this
the
is
box.
food, right? It's all food.
It's only food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Go.
Yeah. Okay. Only granola
You like
balls.
take a bite out of a
this
sandwich.
granola bowl.
Not for me.
Yeah, this avocado not super ripe. I'm putting it back. Yeah.
I'm really worried about our upcoming visit to this now.
I want to do it. Jeremy's not interested.
I so did that.
Let us
already.
know what
No.
you want from the
Norm,
Amazon Go store.
it's time to wish you good luck and revisit our over-under bet from the beginning of the show.
Let me check my text messages,
Just the one?
and I think I only got the one.
Wow.
Ah.
I guess you win.
Yeah.
We both went over.
Yeah. Here's
Well-
the animation.
Oh, my God.
That's pretty great.
Best of luck.
To Danica as well.
I
Yeah.
think she'll
Healthy,
eat it
happy,
more.
everyone.
Thank you.
You're gonna love it.
It didn't happen during the podcast. There's a chance it might not happen before next podcast, but I'm not going to be here next week.
Okay.
Next week, we'll have some special guests. Won't say who.
Keep that card charged up.
Yes, every night. Yeah. That does it for this week's episode. Thank you all for listening. Do we have an outro?
We do. This one's from Al Future.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Microsoft has announced a new, massively dense version of horses, all hidden in elevators.
Oh, let's go. What was that?
Quite a Frankensteining.
Do you recognize that?
No,
Oh, wow.
no.
Deep
No
cut,
idea
maybe.
what was going on.
Everything goes in a recycle bin right after the podcast. I don't empty the recycle bin, but it's there.